Hey, Joe from Boulet's Garage. This video about replacing a starter in a 2014 Honda Accord, it can apply to 2013 through 2017 Accords. And I did this a little bit different, okay? So I replaced the starter first, and I wanted to share with you some realistic stuff that actually happens. Now, first off, I gotta say, before you do this job, make sure you know if you have an anti-theft code or not for your radio. If you don't know where that is, it's likely in a card in the glove box. It's about the size of a credit card. There's also could be a sticker on the inside of the glove box, on the side, or on the lid, have a serial number on it and the 5-digit number that you need to enter in to get your radio working again after. So the other thing too, when you disconnect the battery, is that you could lose the memory for the car. So you may have to do a relearn procedure on it. You might not too, but if it has an erratic idle or things just don't seem right with it, you might have to do that. But at the end of this video, I'll leave a connected video to it to explain how to do it on this vehicle. So first thing I want to get across is that a push button start with a key fob is a lot more difficult to diagnose than a key that you would turn with a starter. Because oftentimes if the contacts are worn in the solenoid and you turn the key, you can go kink, 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 kink. You can keep it doing that underneath the hood. Basically, to start a car with a push button start, you got one chance. Push it and you can hear it click underneath. It's different. It's not as prominent. And you got to cycle, push it back, cycle around and to get it to do it again, rather than have the speed to use the key. You follow me? So the guy that came to me, he went to another shop. They said he needed a push button. So, I'm like, I don't know. I can hear when I got it to do it, I could duplicate the symptoms. I could hear the solenoid trying to engage underneath the hood. Said, I'm more inclined to believe it's a starter. Now, that starter's not, the connector for the solenoid wire is not that easy to get to. Yeah, you could find the relay and see if that was clicking while you were doing that, but the right way to do it would be put a test light or a voltmeter on that wire to make sure that 12 volts is being sent to it. If it wasn't, then you'd be looking at, the switch is bad. But not in this case. So what I recommend though too is if you're going to replace the starter and you're going to go through that, by the way, I wouldn't recommend getting on your back and doing this job. I just wouldn't, unless you're a young lion or lioness and you want to give it a shot. But I think mentioning that you should wear safety glasses if you're thinking about doing this, and proper jack stands and jacks or ramps or whatever you're going to do over torque specs on the starter. If you need to know, the starter torque specs are 33 foot-pounds or 45 Newton meters. But honestly, in my profession and any mechanic I know, they're not going to, get out a torque wrench and torque the starter bolts to 33 foot-pounds. You kind of know. The nut that goes to the battery, the main battery feed wire to the starter, that nut you don't want to over-tighten. So if you don't have a sense of how things feel, that's 7 foot-pounds on that. So I personally will not use a big store remanufactured starter, especially where one is not that easy to get to. What I use is Nippon Denso remanufactured starters for any Asian applications. Now, that's what I specialize in my shop, is Honda and Toyota repairs and maintenance. Nippon Denso number is 280-6023. You'll pick up on it in the video that I left out a digit in there, but I'll correct myself again in the video. So my video quality, I'm gonna apologize ahead of time for it. I'm getting better. The only way I'm gonna get better is keep doing it, right? But if you get one thing out of this that saves you a headache, my job is done. So 3 things to note. All right, so the rubber boot that covers the 12 millimeter, you're going to use a 12 millimeter wrench or 13 millimeter wrench or socket. Why I say 13 millimeter, because if it's an aftermarket starter, oftentimes if somebody uses the nut supplied with, it's going to take a 13 millimeter wrench to fit that, or socket. Problem with that is it's just wider that sometimes you have difficulty getting the socket back on. So save the original nut. It has the built-in lock washer on it. Otherwise, that rubber boot is going to keep coming back in your way. What I suggest you do before you put that wire back up in there is take and fold that boot back, take a wire tie, temporarily put it on there until you get that nut back on there, because it keeps getting in your way. No matter how much you pull it back, it'll keep getting in your way and it'll piss you off. The other thing, so the green clip that goes from the wiring harness into, there's a metal holder, and then the actual solenoid wiring harness connects to, that can be a pain in the ass to get out. If you can get your finger on that connector and push it and you hear it click, good, then pull it, and you know you got that released. The other green connector, you can use a clip removal tool if you can get at it right. If you break it, no big deal. I've been there before. But yeah, see if you can do that. Those two things, and especially if you're on your back, it's gonna give you a hard time. So what else? Yeah, Nippon Denso. You know, just be careful, and you gotta understand something too. There's some good videos out there, and you gotta consider the camera angle. Some really good camera work out there, but you're not gonna be where the camera is on the side. You can see what he's doing. That's great, but reality hits you when you're trying to do it and save yourself some money. And once you do a job like this, it's kind of like opening a can of worms. You're kind of committed to get it done. So anyway, if you have any comments or questions, positive comments would be appreciated in the section below. That'd be great. And I'm going to connect a link or another video on the end screen of this video on how to do a relearn procedure. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video, and be nice. Have a good day. Okay, here's the Nippon Denso starter I'm going to be installing in this 2014 Honda Accord. Part number 280-603. Keep in mind this is for a 2014 Honda Accord with an automatic transmission. Standard transmission will have a different part number. First thing you want to do is remove the negative battery terminal. Yeah, this is just as I thought. This vehicle's got 233,000 miles on it, and that's not the original starter. I can tell for a few reasons. You can see right here, this is someone's been here. That little eyelet is supposed to go right here in the end of the starter, bolted in. So somebody did away with that. They took the bolt out instead of wrestling with the clip up here. But you got that clip if it's never been out before, and then you got your solenoid wire above it right there. You see that? So there's a clip on that that's going to be released, and then above it's the main battery terminal wire. Okay, so seeing how somebody's been here before, I was able to get my 3/8 ratchet on there with a 14 millimeter deep well socket, and I broke that top one loose. Now I'm going to go after the bottom one. All right, I've broken free the top long bolt with a 14 millimeter socket and ratchet, and the bottom one I used 14 millimeter deep here, as you can see, with a 6-inch extension. I had to use a longer ratchet to get that loose. If you get up too close, you're not going to have the throw you need to get that bolt out or get the leverage you need to loosen it. So I got those loose. I'm going to take, I got this terminal to the solenoid off. I'm going to take the nut off to the main battery wire. And keep in mind, normally that's 12 millimeter, but a lot of the aftermarket ones, if they use the nut that's supplied with it, it's going to be 13 millimeter. So just be aware of that. Okay, I got the main battery terminal off the starter. They did use the original 12 millimeter, well, it takes a 12 millimeter socket to fit it, but what you're going to be up against is this boot right here. It's going to keep falling back in place. You got to pull it back the best you can. And it's going to be frustrating because once you get it loose, and you try to get the socket back on there, it might be a little frustrating for you, but just pull it back as far as you can so it doesn't get in the way of you loosening it all the way. But this is the setup I used right here. I used a 3/8 short-handled ratchet with a little stubby extension with a 12mm deep, and there's the original nut. All right, right where you can see my laser light there, that is the top bolt for the starter. I forget what I said in the beginning, whether I loosen and remove the bottom one first or the top one, but anyway, I got that broke free, and I'm gonna remove it the rest of the way with my hand. Pretty simple at this point. I spun it out as far as I could with my electric air ratchet. So I'll get this the rest of the way out. Spinning really easy. So yeah, loosening this and removing it first is the best idea, because that way you don't have the weight of the starter pressing against the bolt as you're trying to turn it out way up top there. It's got a longer throw than what you might think. All right, I got it out. All right, so you can see this bolt, the length of it, where you need some extra torque. If it's never had a starter done, that comes out hard, but, well, it doesn't come out hard, but the first time you crack it, it's hard to get out. All right, now I'm gonna remove this lower starter bolt right now. I'm gonna pull the starter out. All right, I got the old starter out, and it was definitely replaced at some point in time. I can tell you that right now, but you look at like where the solenoid connector goes in, it's all loose right there. The new starter, here's the Nippon Denso I'm putting in there, and much better reman for a lot of different reasons. So they do supply you with a new nut and lock washer. However, I'm going to reuse the one that a 12mm fits, because the lock washer is built right in it. You get up in there and you're trying to get the nut on, and the lock washer keeps falling off on you because that boot I was talking about before gets in your way. You're going to get pissed off. But you can see what somebody did. They might have likely been doing this on their back. This little harness holder, they took off. They took the bolt off right here to remove it, and then they never reinstalled it. But I'm going to reinstall it correctly. I'm going to put the clip on there. I'm going to put a little picture up here in the corner, left-hand corner, of what that clip looks like. There's a little release clip in there you're going to pull back. And again, if you're trying to do this on your back, good luck. But all right, I'm going to get the new starter up, bolted in there, and get the wire terminals on. Basically reverse procedure of taking it apart. So I'm going to give you a little tip before you put these bolts back in. Do yourself a favor and just put a little bit of lubricant on the end of the threads. They'll thread in so much easier. So I'm going to start by starting the lower bolt, and then I'm going to get that snugged up and not tightened, and I'm going to put the top one in. Okay, I got the lower starter bolt here snugged up, but what I want to point out, now it's snugged up. It's just seated against the new starter, but make sure in this spot right here there's no gaps. You want to make sure before you tighten anything down that starter is properly seated in the transmission, because if you don't, you could end up breaking the ears off that new starter, and then you got to buy a brand new starter because they're not going to cover it. All right, moving on. I'm going to put the top bolt in and torque those up and get back to you. Okay, I got the upper and lower starter mounting bolts tightened up, and now I'm going to go after the top battery positive terminal with the original nut that came with it. Well, what are the torque specs, Joe, on the starter? Don't worry about it. Just tighten them up. You don't want to use a 1/2-inch impact and go to town with it. Just tighten them up. Torque specs are important when you're torquing the cylinder head or doing other engine work and some other crucial parts, but not so much on just the starter. All right, continuing on now. So I'll give you a little advice before you put this starter terminal on. Pull this boot back as far as you can, because once you get that up there on the stud and you try to thread it on and that boot keeps coming back in your way, it's gonna piss you off. So just wanted to let you know that. Okay, so you see the wire tie up there, and I took a picture, I put it up in the screen here. Do yourself a favor, if you're having a hard time getting that boot to stay out of the way, just take a wire tie, pull it back, and then snip it off afterwards and just put the boot over. You can see that the little tag that came with this starter says 7 foot-pounds for torque on the nut. That may be kind of crucial, especially if you don't know how things feel when they're tight, but I know basically what 7 foot-pounds is in my memory. So do that, and it says it voids the warranty on this starter if you don't do that. So, all right, moving on now, just about done. Okay, I got the starter in this Accord. It starts up just fine. No more intermittent start. It starts every time you push the push button. So again, to recap, be careful about just throwing parts at stuff, because it can be expensive, and be sure of your diagnosis beforehand. So attached to this video on the end screen, I'm going to have a quick video about idle relearn after you disconnect the battery like you did on this. It varies from vehicle to vehicle. I know if you disconnect the battery in a Volkswagen, a lot of them won't even start. You get them on a haul truck and it goes down to the dealer and they take care of it. But anyway, so I like to go with, Nippon Denso reman starters, alternators when I can. I mean, pretty much this is what I specialize in, is Asian made stuff. And, Nippon Denso oxygen sensors, that's what I stick with anyway. But I don't like putting the cheaper, the major chain store starters in. Being a mechanic and working for myself, it's crucial that I get paid for my labor. And when one of those parts fails, and I'm told that instead of 2 hours labor, they're gonna give me $40 for a failed replacement part, that doesn't work for me or any of my friends that own shops or people I know that own shops. So think of that beforehand. So stick with the best quality. If you order a part, don't order the cheapest one, because you will pay for it. They call it bending over $1 to pick up a dime, last I knew. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. Subscribe. You see the little Boulet's Garage circle up in the corner. Tap that and you can subscribe there, or you can, the lower right hand corner, there's a subscribe button there too. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you.